This shit sucks. Do you see, NCSoft and perhaps a lot of gaming in general, MMORPGs in general, they're kind of in trouble. And I want to talk about why. But bear in mind, as we get into this, I am just an MMORPG YouTuber that doesn't know shit, in all honesty. So take my opinions with a grain of salt. But if some of the reporting on this we're getting is any signal, they probably won't be learning any important lessons from this at all. Because the problem is a lot more than just bad monetization or decisions to abandon an IP, because in retrospect, even though I thought it was a bad idea, maybe it was a good idea with Throne and Liberty. There's a reason for that. You see, NCSoft is going to be restructuring. Things are bad, and they've had lots and lots of issues with revenue over the last couple of years, which we'll get a bit more into, but essentially the company is kind of spiraling. And journalists in Korea covering NCSoft's woes are actually putting some of the blame on NCSoft not being aggressive enough with monetization for Throne and Liberty, but even that was just a footnote about stopping the bleeding elsewhere in the company. If you remember, NCSoft actually didn't report sales for Throne and Liberty in Korea, leading many to suspect it had underperformed. And we don't have revenue numbers yet for its Western release, but none of this sounds like it's doing very well either. Even peaks of 300,000 players seem low. If you use Amazon Game Portfolio specifically, since they are the one that published the game globally, it sounds downright anemic, as New World, a buy-to-play title, peaked at over 900,000 players, and Lost Ark, another AGS published game that was also free-to-play, hit 1.4 million players at peak. For Throne and Liberty, that means it's over 1 million less than the last free-to-play published title from AGS just over 2 years ago. But the problem isn't the MMO. The problem, from my uninformed, not a journalist, just a guy with a camera who plays a lot of MMOs, opinion, is much worse than monetization. You see, throughout all of these articles, not just the ones more recently, but over the last year or so with NCSoft, there's this underlying sentiment, this underlying reception of what is going on here. This talk of investors, angry investors, talk of quarterly profits and not meeting the responsibilities they have, responsibilities to said investors. And of course, financial performance is going to be important for any gaming company. But the thing is, all of this seems to come back to one thing: investors. That fiduciary responsibility to the investors. You see, it seems increasingly investors are the ones who seem to be driving decision making, not just with NCSoft, but in gaming in general. And perhaps it's always been that way, and I'm just more tuned into it now than I was when I was a kid, just going and playing games and enjoying myself. But at the same time, I feel like I need to tap the sign. It's not about reviews of the game or player satisfaction. It's barely even about player numbers anymore. It's about revenue. It's about profit. And before you jump into the comments and say they're a company that has to make profit, yeah, no shit. But alienating your player base through over-reliance on microtransactions because you're listening to investors that don't give a shit about the game and not developers and players doesn't seem to be working very well either. And all this worries me not just for NCSoft's in-development projects like Guild Wars 3, Project Triple L, Project E, and the Horizon MMO, especially those last two, which we'll get to in a second, but also the future of MMOs in general from other companies who have similar structures. Basically, any game company that is publicly traded. But what is actually happening here with NCSoft? Well, they had an investor meeting. And the good old investors. And in that meeting, they confirmed a restructuring at the company, shuffling around development and likely resulting in layoffs. as confirmed by the co-CEOs. Bree Royce from Massively OP delved deeper into the subject and some of its root causes, pointing to the ongoing struggles at the mega developer and publisher. It's all due to the poor revenues of NCSoft over the last year and increasing ire from investors. Keep in mind that we're not far removed from one angry investor suggesting that NC West head be fired after all for not being profitable. You know, NC West and ArenaNet, the ones who make the beloved game Guild Wars 2, the game that gamers actually like and has a really fair monetization model. That game, the game that's been going for years and continues to actually have 10 years on some of the best years of profit for the game since it launched. That game. Fire the person in charge of that. The investor. Something they did actually do in August, although the ArenaNet CEO still remains in place, I guess for now. As Bree Royce put it succinctly back when they covered that, rich men are very angry that they are slightly less rich. But all of these issues with money aren't actually that related to the MMOs. Instead, a lot of this is tied to the Lineage franchise's long decline, notably in the mobile market. Mobile making up 2/3 of NCSoft's income. So basically, mobile is shitting the bed for NCSoft and they're in absolute panic mode because of it, and investors are lashing out at everything, even beloved games like Guild Wars 2. Now, on the other hand, the MMO Throne and Liberty struggled mightily when it launched in Korea, not meeting their expectations and resulting in even more angry investors. And this report from Yonhap on the supposed weak monetization and revenue sharing with AGS for its global launch probably won't make them happy either. What this means for Throne and Liberty is anyone's guess, but we do know that as part of the restructuring, Throne and Liberty will be moving to a new game development studio, codenamed Studio X. Project Triple L was mentioned by name as well, the FPS MMO that's been in development for a while, but there was no mention of two other projects. Project E, a sister project to Throne and Liberty that was speculated to be another MMO, or the Horizon MMO in conjunction with Sony. And all I can think of as I go through all this crap is just how frustrating it all is. Over and over we see angry investor meetings calling for layoffs, calling for canceling projects or increasing monetization. It has nothing to do with the games at all. It's quite simply, make us money. Investors don't actually give a shit if you like Throne and Liberty. That doesn't do anything for their portfolio. What they want is a return on their investment. You liking the game may get them more money. You being addicted to the game probably gets them even more. You feeling like you need to spend money gets them even more return on investment. So you have a hierarchy of what the importance is here. They care if you buy Lucent. They care if they get a return on that investment. And the thing is, this can all be done even if it's counter to the long-term health of a game. Because if they can milk some of the money out of it at the beginning, that's a quick return on investment. A good example of that would be Diablo Immortal. It made just a ridiculous amount of money early on. It continues to make money still to this day, but most of the money, most of that return on investment for that game with its really shitty pay-to-win monetization was made when it first launched. That would be viewed as a win to an investor and a loss to most of us. But why does this also worry me about not just this MMO, not just NCSoft MMOs, but future MMOs? Well, because it's not like they're just this one crazy evil company. Lots of people do this. Lots of publicly traded companies do this. Embracer. Big decisions for lots of games are being made with investors in mind first and foremost. It is also why I'm so keen to support indie development projects, indie MMOs, Kickstarter MMOs, indie RPGs, anything indie I am more likely to be supportive of because it's a closer relationship between the game developer and the person actually going to be playing the game. There's not this person above all of it who's only caring about how much money they're making. It's also why I was so happy to see Baldur's Gate 3 do so well, because technically they're basically a indie dev studio, and they're also not publicly traded. They are a private company that can do whatever the hell they want.
The stuff that we make at Larian is we ask you to pay one price only for the game, and that's it. You can own it for the rest of your life. We don't have shareholders, but we also don't think about them. And we think there's an expression in Dutch that honesty lasts longest or something. There's probably a version in English as well that makes a lot of sense. But what we have tried in the last 20 years is to treat people like we would like to be treated ourselves as players, as gamers. So we don't make decisions where we think this could make us the most money. On the long run, building a community, building a player base, building games that are actually fun is going to make you the most money. That's it. Thank you.
The endless cycle of desperate need to meet quarterly benchmarks to increase investor profit, even in the short term cutting corners, canceling projects, laying off talented developers to save money to increase those portfolio values, is one of the key things I think that is killing off player trust. By pushing aggressive monetization to gain 1% increase in your quarter-to-quarter revenues because some dude bought 3 mounts for $40, but you just lost 100 players. It's just frustrating. Investor pressure isn't new though. It's often interchangeable for me with publisher pressure, the thing that rushed out games like Vanguard. It could even be argued that it was one of the things that killed off EverQuest Next when it was sold to an investment company, Columbus Nova, that had no business doing anything with video games. And it worries me perhaps more than anything else in this genre because MMOs are long-term games. They're expensive games. And if the Kickstarter era of MMOs has shown us anything, money to fund these projects is needed that is far beyond what a player base is willing to spend. And that need puts us right back on that damn treadmill. That need for publishers and investors. That need for people that don't care if the game is good, but only care if the game makes a return on that investment, even in the short term, or perhaps especially in the short term. But what do you think? Because I'm just a YouTuber. I know very little, and my idea of a good investment is probably like, I don't know, a burrito at Taco Bell because it's a cheap thing. I don't know. I'm not good at this. But I want to know what you think. Do you think this is as big a problem as I am making it out to be, or is it not? Is it just part of how things work? And I'm just looking for something to be sad and upset about, or just like, tell me some good news, because I'm feeling more pessimistic than usual, especially in the wake of so many gaming layoffs and canceled projects over the last 2 years or so. Just a little bit of optimism would be great. Thank you all so much. I will talk to you all later.